Hey everybody, in this session I'm going to go over macro and micro goals and the foundation of just creating obstacles in your story. Hope you enjoy. So every story you write is going to have two types of goals. The main goal is the macro goal. So this is the goal or intention that your hero has that will serve as the spine of your story and give your story a clear direction. The second goal or second type of goal is the micro goal. And this is the goal or intention that your hero has on a micro scene or sequence level. So I guess you can look at it as being pieces of a puzzle, right? You know what the overall picture is because you have the macro goal, but these micro goals just put the pieces together and form a whole macro goal, okay? And we'll elaborate on that a little more. So we've all heard, our screenwriting or storytelling instructors say that every scene must move the story forward. So let's break that down a little bit and uncover the baseline meaning. So your macro goal is the spine of your story. But what makes a really good macro goal is simplicity. I mean, at least I'm a strong believer in simplicity. Your success as a storyteller is really measured by how engaged your audience is. So you need the audience's attention. So a good macro goal or macro intention is tangible, right? It's something that we can see, something that can be physically manifested. So for example, let's just say that your character's macro goal or intention is to find and take back her stolen dog, okay? The seizing of the dog is tangible, right? You can physically accomplish this goal. You can see this goal happen physically. That's what I mean by having a tangible macro goal. On the flip side, just to kind of contrast this so you better understand, on the flip side, a more difficult goal or intention to pull off would be something that is not tangible. Say, for example, your character's goal is to find the purpose or meaning of life, right? This is something I'm not going to get into detail right now, but it's something that is far more complicated. It's more of a need, really, than anything. But, we'll talk about that another time. So, let's just take those two examples of having the tangible goal and the untangible goal. Even if the heroes are exactly the same in both stories, these are two fundamentally different stories or movies, right? One is much harder to execute on the surface, right? Trying to find the meaning of life or your purpose in life. Really, you'll struggle to find obstacles just on a surface level, if that is your goal, right? If that's what your climax is, right? Your climax is really you come face to face with your macro goal. How do you get to that point? I think you're going to have a lot harder of a time trying to get your story to that point than if you have the tangible goal, which is, finding the dog, right? So for the sake of just for the sake of this session and driving home the point, let's just use the simple goal and learn how to craft a story. So we'll go with a traditional macro goal of finding the stolen dog, okay? So now that you have the goal and intention of the character on a macro level, it's going to be fairly easy to conjure up some obstacles, right? Each obstacle is unique, so just keep in mind that we never create the same obstacle twice, and we continue to try to up the stakes or just escalate the conflict as we go. So each one of these obstacles that we'll create on a micro level will naturally spark a new micro goal or intention for the hero on their way towards the macro goal of finding the dog, okay? So, for example, let's just start this off and say, through some handy detective work, our hero may find that her dog was stolen by a notorious pet thief named Pierre, okay? Her micro goal or intention now is to find Pierre, right? This micro goal is directly related to the macro goal, right? She thinks that he has the answers. So her micro goal or intention is to find him. So she'll jump through some hoops and eventually achieve her goal of finding Pierre. But, she finds out that Pierre sold a dog to a puppy black market. Okay. This movie is like Taken with an angry pet owner. Okay. So the micro goal, as we can see, is directly related to the macro goal. Now, after finding her dog was sold to the puppy black market, her next micro goal is to take a trip to South Carolina, where she knows her puppy has been held by the evil corporation of the American Kennel Club. Nothing against the AKC, by the way. Along the way, every action or every line of dialogue is just a micro step towards the goal, right? And just a little side note, when you have a really clear macro goal, it leaves a lot of room to have nuance. Say, for example, say our character, our hero, is infiltrating, the AKC building, and she's confronted by people, but she's in disguise, right? And she's lying to the security guard so she can get through the doors and try to find her dog. You see, we can understand as an audience, because of the clarity of that macro goal, we can understand exactly what she's doing. We can understand her lies, and we can now feel the suspense and the pressure of the moment that, if she gets caught, she's going to be killed, right? The stakes are extremely high, right? That's a different story. We'll talk about stakes another time, but in this moment, we can use nuance with a clear macro goal to craft a sequence that will keep the audience engaged without being so on the nose, right? And trying to explain everything to the audience. We can, our character can enter and be very, very obscure, right? So she infiltrates the puppy black market, kicks down the doors of the AKC, kicks some people's asses, then comes to her low point where she discovers she's too late, right? Her beloved pooch has been skinned alive for her fur, but in a last second moment of revelation, she discovers that the car transporting her pooch left minutes prior. So now her next micro little goal is to go find a motorcycle. So she goes and kicks some other people's asses, zooms down the highway, jumps on the big transport vehicle and has a big fight with somebody in a climactic showdown, right? Where she comes face to face with her macro goal. I know this isn't a great movie idea, folks. I'm just pulling this out of my ass, but I hope this is making sense. I really just want to drive home the fact that every single action, every single moment, every line of dialogue needs to be related to the macro goal. So you have to look at these micro goals or micro intentions and on the sequence and scene level, and understand that it's not going to make sense if you diverge away from it, right? What I find too often is that writers aren't connecting the dots when it comes to goals and intentions. They have a bunch of micro conflict, but it falls short because it's not tied to the macro goal, right? So, for example, let's imagine in this, BS story that I just created, let's imagine that our hero's having a sequence where she's fighting with her mother because the family pet store is going bankrupt. It may be a fine scene, right? But if the audience doesn't see a direct connection to the macro goal, or they don't sense that, they're just going to check out. They're going to start yawning. They're going to, not on a subconscious level, they're not going to know what the point of the scene is. So ultimately, your macro goal is like the body of the vehicle, and your micro goals are like clutches that take your story into higher gear with each sequence, leading to that roaring third act climax. I really hope this helps. What I find a lot is writers come to me with a script that is really premature and half-baked, right? It's really hard. I don't want anybody to pay me for services to help them figure this stuff out, because really the fun stuff doesn't begin till after you figure this out. I would encourage everybody who isn't necessarily dialed in to their macro goal or doesn't have their script tight enough to have a clear macro goal, to figure this out right and rewrite until you figure this out, because at that point you can really start having fun with your script. Then when you start breaking down characters and tweaking motivations and really sinking your teeth into the character and the nature of the characters. And now you bring the story all together, but you really can't do much of that until you figure out what your macro goal is and you really tighten that up. Because once you know that macro goal, now it's going to leave you with freedom to be able to create twists and turns and really have a lot of fun. So please don't come to me and I really don't want to take anybody's money for helping them to figure out how to actually make their story more focused on a macro goal level. I rather just people figure it out. That's why I'm doing this podcast, why I'm putting out these sessions. I hope it helps. Feel free to drop me a line, ask me any questions. I'm available. Thanks, guys.